That was actually really fast.
Hey guys, we're in CIS.
I didn't
Or
try to come in. Nope.
sociology. Not
It's
sociology.
in class.
Okay, do you have something to write with?
Yes.
No.
Something to write on?
I had
Yeah.
two things that I
Yes.
over.
Let's go. Just want to tell you, you are responsible for everything we cover in class. It might be on the screen and it might not. You're responsible for everything in this class that goes on. As I said before, when you were in the multipurpose room, there are 42 kias this year. There are 6 times 4, 24 exams this year. Of the 24, 6 are blue book essays. The other 18 are objective exams online. There are 4 papers this year. And we're going to have a swell time doing all of that stuff. So let's go. Let's go.
Can't wait.
In this class, we answer 3 big questions all semester, all year. We will answer 3 big questions. We will keep coming back to the same 3 questions. The first question is, America, hooray or boo? Right? Are we the nation that enslaved people? Or are we the nation that gave women the right to vote? Which is it? And you're thinking, well, both. Well, yeah, but choose. 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 Which one are we more? Right? And, you know, there are examples of American history. So that's one question. America, hooray or boo hiss? And then the next question. Who should do it? It being take care of stuff. Who should be the entity that takes care of the fact that blacks are being lynched in the South? Who should take care of that? Should that be the responsibility of the federal government, the United States federal government, or should it be the state where it happens? So the second question we'll be dealing with all year is state or nation? Which one should take care of healthcare? Very good example, right? Wisconsin has accepted the idea that the federal government can take care of healthcare. And that's why Wisconsin opted out of Obamacare. Wisconsin does not participate in its own health exchange. Wisconsin said, we're not doing it. The feds can do it. Right across the St. Croix River, Minnesota said, we'll do it. We will take care of healthcare within our border. And that's why Minnesota has MNsure. That's Minnesota Insurance, I guess. And Wisconsin has nothing. It's because Minnesota has concluded we can do it. And Wisconsin says we ain't going to do it. Okay. That's an example of what I'm talking about. And then the third question is, how does our nation fit in with Earth? How do we fit in? Right? If you were to ask that question today, it's kind of a good question because of what I will call Trumpism. And I don't say that as praise or criticism, as simply an observation. Trumpism. Trumpism is the conclusion that the U.S. doesn't need to worry about the world. Go take care of yourself, Earth. We're good with us. America first, America only. So screw you, NATO. Screw you, UN. We don't have to worry about international organizations. We're good on our own. We're primarily concerned with us. So, hey, Canada, screw you. We're not worried about you and your trade anymore. We're worried about our trade. So this thing called NAFTA, which we will talk about, is that going to be a thing in the past? So today, that's an interesting question. After World War II and up to Trump's election, the resounding answer would have been U.S., leader of the world, creator of international organizations, binder of nations. So we're in NATO, and we're in the UN, and we're in NAFTA, and we're in this, and we're in that. We're involved in all these things. But before that, we were kind of too wimpy. We didn't have the military might or the economic imprint to be able to impact the earth. So the question will be, throughout American history, what's our place in the world? When we're born? And during the Cold War? And today, 2 fingers. North America, and that's Central America, and that's South America. And over here is a big arrow with the word land bridge. Anyone know what an ice age is? What? There were big glaciers, yes.
It was cold.
It was pretty cold. Mammoths? Okay.
There's a movie about it.
Fantastic.
There's a movie about it.
Do you know,
Talking sloth.
are we
Say the
aware that the people that populated the Americas crossed from Asia during the Ice Age? Did you know that?
Yes.
That's something you should write down. Unless you're thinking, I knew that already. Then what are you doing? Right? I would suggest that you only write down things you didn't know. The mass migration of people to the Americas occurred during the last Ice Age. How did they cross from Asia to Alaska?
Land bridge.
Because with the
Ice bridge.
No.
Okay, this is perfect.
The water.
Some of you are saying, well, the water was frozen, so they walked across the ice.
Water
Two
level
oceans,
was lower.
breeze.
Water level was lower.
Very good. No, that's wrong. By the way, we just had an example of something that I hope we all have the courage to do in here. And that is the guts to say something and for me to say no.
Logan has good.
And you're okay and I'm okay. The guts to take a shot and be wrong, which unfortunately I believe people your age, it's less and less common. If I don't raise my hand, I can't be wrong, is not something I welcome in here. I want you to take a chance. She said, oh, that's because North America and Asia were right next to each other. You're off by a few billion years there, but just a few. Go ahead.
So the water was all in ice, so it the ocean level was lower. So there's a
Very good. That's the right answer. They didn't cross an ice bridge. It says land. Land bridge, not land bridge made of ice. That's an ice bridge. This is a land bridge. The Ice Age made the polar caps larger, which lowered the level of the oceans, revealing the land that connects Russia with Alaska. So there was land there. And they slowly migrated across and down and populated. Did I hit that screen?
Yes.
And populated the Americas. There are 3 biggies. There were 3 big Native American empires. The 3 biggies. Know them. The Aztec, Inca, Maya. Know where they were located pacifically. The Aztec in what we today call Mexico. The Inca in what we today call Peru. And the Maya, just kind of throughout Central America. Aztec, Inca, Maya. The 3 biggies. Well, weren't there the Iroquois in the area today that we call New York? Didn't they exist? Why aren't they one of the biggies? What makes a biggie a biggie? Why do we study the ancient Egyptians? Why do we study the ancient Romans or the Greeks? What is it about the Romans and the Greeks and the Egyptians that is sort of in common with the 3 Native American biggies? What is it? No. Good guess, Lex. Good guess. Yes? They were all major civilizations, but so were the Iroquois. What makes something a civilization and not just a cute little tribe? What? The Iroquois had government.
They're
Okay, so it's one day in Egypt, and the buffalo are going that way. So did everyone grab a piece of the rope and drag the pyramids to follow the buffalo?
No, they moved and made. They migrated.
Agriculture is certainly part of it, right? They stayed where they were, right?
Oh, they didn't
stayed
migrate.
where they were.
I
They
just said the
stayed
exact
where
opposite.
they were. The Greeks did not chase whales. They stayed in Greece. The Romans stayed where they were, and they built big pyramids and columns. That's what these three did. They built huge pyramids. Here's the word. You're an empire when you have what is called specialization. Specialization. Everyone in Iroquois culture had to go hunt or grow. Everyone did, because they didn't have specialization. Everyone had to hunt. But in Aztec culture, some people were priests. How did that priest eat? How did that priest eat? Somebody else grew the food. There's an exchange. You grow the food, I'll condemn your soul to hell or whatever. Right? There's an exchange of specialty. I'll be a soldier, you be a priest. I'll protect you, you pray for me. There's an exchange there. That's what makes an empire rather than a cute little tribe. This one is particularly nasty. Look at this picture here. Anyone know what's going on here? What?
Sacrifice.
Yes. So this is one of their pyramids. So one way to differentiate between an Egyptian pyramid and one of these pyramids in the Americas. Does anyone know?
One of them is steps.
That's exactly right. So the Egyptian pyramids are smooth, and the ones in the Americas are stepped. Right? But it's kind of remarkable. They both came up to the conclusion that to please our gods, we should build buildings toward the heavens. Right? That was a conclusion that both reached. So there's the priest right here. This guy's right here, and in his lap is this poor fella, and they've just carved his heart out. This is true. Right? And then what they're going to do is they're going to throw parts of his body into the middle of the pyramid where the raging fire god is, right, as a sacrifice. And then they'll throw other parts down the stairs, like his head. So they're kind of bowling, right? Yeah. And down below, what you can't see are the thousands of people that are there for this ceremony cheering. Thank goodness that's not me. Is sort of the idea. But you have to understand that this is thousands of years ago, right? They did not understand that big yellow thing in the sky was a giant ball of gas. They didn't know this stuff. And so how do you explain it? Well, it's the sun god, see? And we haven't been doing so hot as far as growing crops. Well, how do we affect that? Well, obviously we capture enemies and we throw their bodies into the fire. Oh, yeah, sure. That makes perfect sense. That makes as much sense at this time as arguing that the sun is actually a huge ball of gas engaging in nuclear fusion today. If I tell you that the sun is a huge ball of gas and there's nuclear fusion going on, you should look at me and say, yeah, that's exactly right. But that's what happened back then. The sun god is angry. Oh, said Junior. Sure. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, oh, I see why you said agriculture. Yeah, right. They grew things which allowed for permanence. It allowed for permanence. They didn't go where the buffalo go. They stayed here and grew their own food. It allowed for specialization. You become a priest, you become a soldier, you become a government official, you become a shoe salesman, you become a blacksmith, and we'll work things out together. First one of the year. A couple others that I want to mention here, and again, you're responsible for all of this, is that many tribes existed and then kind of died off. For example, have any of you been to the Grand Canyon? Did you see the Anasazi ruins? Did you see the Anasazi? There are these buildings that are built right into the cliffs. No doors. Kind of amazing. Their main method of defense was to run away, up the ladder, pull the ladder, no doors. Their buildings had no doors. So So they really have. You're down there. We're up here because we pulled the ladder up. And then their enemies thought, why don't we make a ladder? And that was the end of the Anasazi. The other one I'll mention, they will come up again here soon, are the Iroquois. Iroquois live in what we today call New York. And they were a fairly large tribe if you go north of Mexico. All of the majors, all the biggies were Mexico south. By the way, anyone want to take a shot as to why? Why is it that the huge tribes are all down there? Go ahead. Very good, right? Agriculture is more successful. Yeah, up here, the weather doesn't exactly cooperate. However, it is the Iroquois that came up with this idea called federalism. And I'm wondering if anyone wants to take a shot. What's federalism? What is it?
It's like there's certain people at the top and then like lower levels of like people.
Very good. So sort of a way to organize your society. What do we have today? United States of America. What do we have that I could say that's an example of federalism? Can you be more specific? You said government.
Well, there's
State government.
Very good. We have a federal level, and then we have states. Let's keep going. We have counties. We have cities, right? That's all levels of government, and each level takes care of some things. For example, if Canada decided, that's it, we want Wisconsin, it should have been ours in the first place, and they invaded. Canada invaded Wisconsin. Whose responsibility would be the defense of Wisconsin? Exactly, federal, because it's the federal government that takes care of military defense. I'm sure Wisconsin has some fine people that could defend them against the mighty Canadian Army. But Wisconsin would not be responsible for that. Another example, this building that you're in. Who is responsible for public education in Wisconsin? The state of Wisconsin. That's exactly right. The state of Wisconsin dictates what I'm teaching you. Now, what's kind of interesting is you're the one exception. Well, there's now 4 exceptions in this building. You are learning what the University of Minnesota wants you to learn, not what the state of Wisconsin wants you to learn. So there are different rules and it gets complicated. But anyway. Any questions on slide number 1? At various points in this class, you'll see the 3 big squares. That just is a message for me. So you don't have to worry about it. I'll never test you like, what color was the middle one? Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Can we go over like the horses and oxen?
There were no horses, oxen, or wheels native to the Americas. They were all introduced. Okay. Tomatoes. Don't you associate tomatoes with Italy, right? Italian food? Tomatoes are not native to Italy. They're native to here. So some things that were here got exchanged to there, and some things that were there got exchanged to here. That's all part of a bigger story that I'm going to tell in a minute. Anyone else? Great question. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm recording myself right now. I'm live.
Are the slides going to be on like the website
Yeah,
too?
slides will all be on the website. Yep. I want to make this class something where if you miss it, you're fine. Okay? A long time ago, there was a way to get from Europe, which was disgusting and muddy and no refrigeration and disease-ridden, and people ate mud. And it was depressing. And then one guy, you play the pool game. You play this game when you're in the pool. Marco Polo, who lived in the 1200s, he made a journey all the way to China. He wrote about it. And his writings were so fantastically unbelievable that no one believed him. Yeah, right. Cities made of gold. Okay. Right. A little powder that you can put on things and make it taste better. Yeah, right. No one believed him. And how did he get there? What was the name of that path that he chose?
Silk Road.
It's called the Silk Road. It's called the Silk Road, which is neither of those is an accurate description. The road was not made of silk. There was no road. It was just a series of paths, and you knew where to go because you looked for the dead bodies. Yeah, I think it's that way. Jim's over there. And that's where you went. Go ahead.
Wasn't there also like big stone like markers? Like
Yes, there were a few markers there to let you know where to go. Okay. So Marco Polo comes back and he shares these stories that no one believes. Chapter 2 of Why Did Europeans Try to Get to Asia? Chapter 1 was the writings of Marco Polo. Okay. Chapter 2. I am now pointing at this area of land right here. If you can kind of orient yourself to what we're looking at here. This is the Mediterranean Sea. So here's Italy and Europe. And way down here, I'm now pointing at a chunk of land. Does anyone know what this area is called today? We refer to it as the Middle East. Very good. It's called the Middle East. Okay, it's an area of a lot of conflict today, and that's been true for thousands of years. This is the area of land where Jesus supposedly lived, and so it becomes important to major religions, specifically the Catholic religion. The Pope who was the leader of the Catholic faith, didn't live here though. He lived in Rome. Rome becomes the new spot for the Catholic faith. And there was this one Pope in the mid-1100s, and he said there's something wrong when the area of land where the person upon which our faith is based, Jesus, there's something wrong when we don't even control that area of land. It's under the control of Muslims. And that was wrong. The area of land where Jesus lived is under the control of Muslims? Fix it, said the Pope. So the Pope lived here in Rome. And in Rome was the head of the Catholic Church. But back then they had a thing called feudalism. What's feudalism?
Isn't it like
Kings,
yes, merchants,
lords,
merchants,
okay,
peasants?
So I'm Pope Potter, and Earth is mine. Earth. It's kind of large though, so I'm going to delegate. You shall be the queen of tables. You shall be the queen of tables. You shall be the king of tables. King of table. Okay? Name your table. Go ahead. Name your table, king or queen. What's the name of your table? Land. What's the name of your table? Name thy table. Cheese table, delish. And now, king or queen of your table, delegate control of the chairs to the other people at your table. Delegate! Do it! Delegate!
Logan out of this table.
Shut
Have you delegated?
Can be the king of this table. Kick Logan out.
Budget cuts.
So you see,
you know something.
I, Pope, rule Earth. But it's too large for me. So what I do is I delegate. I delegate to people who now control chunks of my kingdom. And those people delegate. That's feudalism. So one day the Pope tells the kings and queens of the tables, hey, raise an army and go capture the land where Jesus lived.
Okay.
And how did they raise that army? Well, look around. Look around. There are your soldiers. There they are. And they went. And they fought in a series of wars to recapture the Holy Land. Now, this is not ancient history. We are not going to cover the Crusades. We are going to cover the important outcome of the Crusades, which is that when those soldiers went down to the Holy Land, they discovered this white powder that you put on rotten meat to make it taste not so bad. That's called salt. Salt did not exist in Europe. But it did exist in the Middle East because the Middle East was part of the Silk Road. There was trade between China and the Middle East. And so these soldiers brought this white powder back to the Pope and their kings and said, you got to try this. Put it on your rotten foul meat. And he put the white powder up. What is it? Salt. Where did I get these sons? Over this place called China. And they were like, China, I've heard of that. Marco wrote about it. Wait a minute. Maybe he wasn't wrong. Maybe it does have these fantastic things that Marco wrote about before. Let's get there. Let's try and get to this thing called China. And so they did. The people in the brown area tried to get to China. But how do you do that? Well, one group said, let's use the Silk Road. That's what they did. And this group would have been the Italians. Italy was not a nation. Did you know the United States is older than Italy, the nation? Anytime a history teacher ever tells you we're a young nation, no, we're not. We're one of the oldest on earth. China's got us by a few thousand. But other than that, we are one of the oldest nations on earth. We're older than Germany. Yes, we are. I will explain what I mean. So the Italians went by land. What they did was not only did they go by land, but what they did was they prevented other nations from going by land through wars and fighting. No, this is ours. This is our turf. You go your way. Okay, so the Portuguese said, all right, we'll just go around this strange landmass here. That's how we'll get there. And not only did they go there, but they prevented others from going that way. And then there was this guy named Chris. And he said, I know how to get to China. I know how to get there. We already know why they wanted to get there. Salt and paprika and cinnamon and all that other stuff, right? And Chris said, look, I can get us to China more quickly than the Portuguese going around Africa because I believe that the earth is round. Now, I'm going to dispel a myth. Almost nobody believed earth was flat back then. If you were a complete moron, you believed the earth was flat. Everyone knew the earth was round. What they didn't know was how big is earth? How big is it? Right? So mentally do this little experiment with me. Will you please just do this mental experiment with me? Take an orange mentally. Picture an orange. Unpeel it in one peel. One peel. Eat that juicy, delicious orange, but you still have the peel now. It's an orange peel with nothing inside, right? It's still an orange peel. Okay? You still got it? You got it? Mentally. All right, now take it and lie flat. Lie flat. Flat on a table, okay? Now, you obviously have some empty spaces now because you can't take something around and lie flat, right? Now you've got gaps. Take 1/3 of it and throw it away. Okay? Now, reform your orange. Reform it. That's what Chris thought the size of Earth was. Chris believed that Earth was the size it was minus the Pacific Ocean. Oh. He didn't know about this thing called Pacific Ocean, which is sort of significant. If you take Earth and you take away Pacific Ocean, suddenly China is a whole lot closer to Europe than it was before. And that's what he went. And he went from king to king in Europe. And he said, look at this map. This is how close China is. And the king of England and the king of France looked at it and had his scientific advisors look at the map and they said, but that's not right. That Earth is not this big. And so Chris went from place to place and nobody believed him until he finally met this one girl. And she was a religious nutcase. She believed God favored her. She had just gotten married to this handsome guy and just created this new kingdom called Spain. And what she was doing was saying, God, I know I'm your most favored person. Show me a sign, God, that I am your favorite. And Chris walks in saying, I can get you to China. And she said to Chris, you know what? This makes no sense, but God would not lie to me. I believe you. Take 3 ships, go, explore, find me a route to this China. And that's what he did. And he was wrong. Really, really wrong. But look what he did. No. So there's hope for some of you. So I want you to, for the last note you're taking at this page, and I want you to note that the way that they treated unexplored lands, whether it be Africa with the Portuguese or North and South America with the Spanish, was, gee, that large chunk of land is in my way. How do we find our way around it? So the Portuguese, for example, would send somebody and he'd reach this far, and then he'd start sailing east. Oh my God, and then they go back and say, here, look, this is how far I got. And so the next person would go to where the first person was because they had established a base there, resupplied, and then went a little further. And this land is in the way. It's annoying. Until somebody said, well, wait a minute now. What is this land? What? Maybe we should explore it a little bit, see what's out there. Maybe there's natural resources out there. Oh, yeah. And then chapter 3, hey, let's conquer it. It's in my way. What is this thing? Let's take it. That is the progression of European thought towards Africa and the Americas. A lot here. Any questions? If right now you're thinking, I don't know what I'm writing down half the time, welcome to CIS History. All right. Question. One slide left. Oh, I forgot. A few explorers specifically. It was this guy named Diaz that actually made it to the southern tip of Africa, 1388. That's 4 years before Chris, 1492. One other one. 6 years after Columbus, a guy by the name of Vasco da Gama reached India for Portugal. Rule of thumb, if it's a route around Africa, it's Portugal. If it's a route going west, it's Spain. Quick little rule of thumb. So wouldn't that be a nasty little test question where I listed a bunch of explorers and what they did, you tell me where they were from. Or better yet, who they sailed for. That's more accurate. There's this one guy that sailed for Portugal, but he was from Spain. Oh, that's like if like Brett Favre played for the Packers and signed with the Vikings. Last slide, and then where you have to shift gears and do other things. We are now focusing on the Portuguese exploration around and of Africa. This area in blue basically represents Portugal on its best day ever. The extent of the Portuguese Empire and the amount of land, earth, under its control at one point. Portugal was bad-mouthed out. All of Africa, parts of South America, around India, because they're trying to find a way to China, around Africa, they explore it. It's in my way. They explore it. What is this thing? And then they take over. Coastal Africa. Coastal. And the Portuguese are the ones that we can give credit, blame, I don't know, you decide which word is more appropriate, for this idea called race-based slavery. It was the Portuguese that looked at these really black people and said, slaves. Sweet. Did slavery exist before then? Of course. But it wasn't race-based slavery. You might have your neighbor be your slave. Slaves were something that the victorious army captured the losing army and made them slaves. But this is something else. This is, you look different from me, therefore you are a slave. The belief that the people of Africa are slower, dumber, not equal to the mighty Europeans is a Portuguese conclusion. And this map over here represents the amount of people that over this thing called the slave trade were taken from Africa to the New World, to the Americas. And you as Americans, you believe that, yeah, of course slavery existed, but, and I'm not trying to say, but we weren't as bad as the others, but we weren't. We simply weren't. 500,000 Africans were taken from the African continent and eventually brought to the 13 colonies. 500,000. By comparison, Brazil had 5 million. 5 million. 4.5 million to the Caribbean. There's a reason why American history ends up on the path it does, and Central American and South American history goes on the path it does as far as race-based slavery. And part of it is just numbers. There just weren't that many in the 13 colonies compared to other areas. The path, I'm sure many of you are familiar with. The path, the red line here, Have any of you ever seen those pictures where they packed them in like sardines? It's awful to think about, right? That was called the Middle Passage, right? The sending of people lying on their backs for months across the Atlantic Ocean, and if about half survived, that was pretty good. Half of mine survived. Wow, how about that? Pretty good. Okay, now you can take a mental break. Now I have things to give you. You want to stand and stretch? I'll talk to you in a minute. Stand and stretch. It's fine. We're done with you.
27.